7 or 8 months since I picked up my RS3, and there are a lot of features I love about it, and there are a lot of reasons why I bought it, and it turned out that those reasons were valid, as in I expected something out of this car and I got it. Most people think of the RS3 as being fast. Actually, that's pretty much it, just being fast. That's probably the primary trait that people think of when they think of the RS3. But for me, the main reason I bought this car was the sound. My daily commute is not exactly engaging, in that it's pretty much just a short drive through some suburbs and on a couple of semi-major roads, but not on a highway or not down a twisty road, not through mountains or anything like that. It's just plain driving. And the way you can make that fun is to have a car that makes fun noises all the time, no matter what you're doing. Now, a lot of cars that make a lot of noise need to be going really fast, or you need to be, hard on the throttle to make those noises. In the RS3, that's not really the case. You can make pretty much all the fun noises at 20-30% throttle. So, because of my commute and because of my desire to make the most interesting sounds possible, I've learnt a number of ways that you can get the most interesting sounds out of this car. Now, the normal way everyone knows is the crackle pops on upshifts. This is pretty standard for a lot of cars that have turbos and DSGs, and even some that have manuals. But in the case of the RS3, it's pretty simple. You floor it and then change up. But that's not actually the best way to get the best noises out of it. The best way is to change at about 4,500 RPM and not to be at full throttle, to be at about 70% or 60% throttle. And that's how you get the nicest, loudest cracks. The second very distinctive noise that these are known for is their 5-cylinder warble. The really interesting, characterful sound it makes just cruising along normally or when under throttle. Again, people usually think that it makes that sound the best at full throttle, but it's actually not the case again. The only requirement for this to make that sound really good is that you be above 3,000 RPM, because that's when the valves open. And to get the best sound, it's best to have the throttle at about 30 to 40% rather than 100%, because, and I'm only assuming here, I don't know technically, but I'm assuming the car isn't actually directing all of the exhaust through the turbocharger if you're at 30% throttle. So more of that exhaust can come straight from the engine, straight out the exhaust, and you can hear it better. Whereas if you're at full throttle, a lot of that sound gets soaked up by the turbo, or it definitely seems to be the case anyway. Thing that happens to people occasionally, very rarely actually, and they don't really know how it happens, is the backfire noise. That one. Now, I only just discovered this yesterday, I think it was. The way to get that noise is to be at sort of low revs, 3,000, 4,000 RPM, when you're downshifting, maybe even lower, maybe 2,000 RPM. Let's find out. About 2,000 RPM actually. And then as you downshift, just stab the brakes. And for some reason, that makes massive backfires. Another one that people have trouble with is making the car make noise when you're free revving it. So when you have it in neutral and you want to rev the engine and make it make noise. Now, that's not too big of a deal when you're sitting still, although a lot of people don't realize that you actually have to put the car into dynamic mode or another mode that has the valves open after you go into neutral, because the car will close the valves when you move it into neutral, even if you were in dynamic mode in drive. Okay, so when you start the car up, it doesn't matter what mode it's in. For example, my car's currently in dynamic mode. If you go into neutral, it won't make nice noises. So what you have to do is hit drive select again, hit dynamic again, for example, and now it does make nice noises. And the other part about that is it also allows you to rev while rolling. Once you've set the valve position in neutral when you're parked, you can go into neutral while you're driving and it'll make the correct noises as well. I normally drive my car around in manual mode, but a tip from a previous commenter on one of my videos pointed out that if you want the loudest cracks going from first to second, it's actually best to have the car in sports auto. I don't know why, but it does seem to provide the loudest noise when shifting between first and second. I don't know what it is about. It's amazing to me that the DSG has so much impact on the sound the car makes. It's really crazy. There must be a lot of communication between them, or maybe it's actually the opposite, in that the ECU is basically trying to figure out what the TCU is doing, and that creates different noises. I don't really know. Now, in my opinion, the most interesting of all the different noises you can make out of this car is not necessarily the actual noise. It does sound pretty cool, but the interesting part is the fact that the car lets you do this at all, or that this is programmed into the car at all. The RS3 has anti-lag or rolling launch control. I'm not actually sure if it's intentional or if it's just a side effect of a combination of how the car's tuned or how it's designed to respond to certain situations. But if you're driving at, say, 3000 RPM in a gear, and you pull the paddle to go down a gear and stomp on the accelerator just after you pull the paddle, the car will do a form of anti-lag, just spool the turbo up and then basically drop the clutch. Now, I have mentioned this in a previous video, but it was just so crazy to me that a manufacturer would include this on a standard car from factory that I think it's worth another mention. It is pretty crazy in general. How is that a reasonable feature to have in a car from the factory? Like, I guess it's no more crazy than launch control, but I don't know. That was stupid weird. A guy in an STI just whipped his high beams at me. So I might have lost a GoPro. No, they're all good apparently. I think one of my favourite features of this car is that it can be so much fun to drive and make such interesting noises and just be so dynamic while being within the speed limit and being completely safe and reasonable. It's just noisy. Like, you don't have to be flogging it, you don't have to be going too fast or doing anything silly to be enjoyable. I'm in a 60 zone and I'm currently doing 50. If I drop it down a second, give it a bit of a it's just fun, it sounds good, but I only peaked at 56, so I'm still 4Ks under the speed limit. This is just, it's an excellent car to daily and not worry about, you know, having any problems with, you know, doing illegal activities or anything like that. That being said, it's a bit of a problem because it is so fast that you can kind of sneeze and accidentally do a lot faster than you were intending to do. that's what I know about making crazy sounds with RS3s. If any of you guys have an RS3 and know how to make other interesting sounds, I'd be very interested to hear it.